Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget.
Udhana Tesala Abeysekera is my guest today. Thank you, Udhana, for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for the invite. Love to be here.
Okay, Udhana is a special guest. He lives in Italy. He lives in a region called Abruzzo, Italy, and he lives in this really beautiful town. I've never been there. But it looks so gorgeous from some of the pictures that I saw. It's called Marino di San Vito. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Udhana is originally from Sri Lanka. He grew up there, and that is a beautiful island as well. I mean, it's that I'm actually looking to talk to somebody and meet somebody that lives over there soon, eventually, hopefully. But yeah, and then you moved from Sri Lanka to Australia, and then you eventually found your way over to Italy.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. And so Udhana is in aviation, and he flies planes, or used to fly planes. And you're a sailor, I believe. Is that correct?
Yep. I used to do that as a hobby, which took up most of my time outside of work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. And then you live in this coastal region of Italy, and I'm going to pull a map up to show people where it's at. And you guys make wine on your property. Is that right? Or
Yeah. Predominantly, we grow the wines, but we make wine as well but not for commercial use. But the actual grapes are produced for commercial use. So we take it to a local cantina. That's how things work around here. And yeah.
wow,
that's what we
nice.
do.
Can you see the map? Is the map up?
Yep. I could see
Okay.
the map. Yeah. It's
O-
zoom.
Okay, so I have it kind of honed in, or it's kind of pulled back, so we can look over here. Here's Sri Lanka right here. If we pull in, so all right, that was too fast. So we're right here, which is this beautiful little island below India, and then you made your way all the way to another beautiful destination. And you are kind of directly across from Rome on the coast
Yep.
near Pescara.
That's right. Yep. That's correct.
And let's pull in a little bit more. And there it is, San Vito.
That's where I am.
Okay. Marino di San Vito.
San Vito. That's correct.
Yeah. Very cool. So my first question is that you've bounced around a bit. How did you end up finding Italy, and in particular Marino di San Vito?
Yeah. It was a bit of a change for me. So I think if you come from, like, say, directly from Sri Lanka to Italy, I think there will be a different sense of like different kind of change. But coming from Australia again, it was sort of like going back in time, but in a good way. People here are very simple, and they love their food and they love their wine. But yeah, Abruzzo, like especially San Vito, San Vito is a small town, obviously in Abruzzo, which is divided into 4 bits. But this region here, it's not the typical Tuscany that you see, or the Puglia down south. It's a little bit reserved and kind of tucked away. Tourists, mainly German, Swiss, like European tourists, I know about this area. But living wise, it is a very simple life, which I kind of enjoy in this moment of time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did work take you there? I mean, was what you do in aviation take you to Italy?
No, no. So my wife is originally from Italy. I met her 3 years back in 3 years back in Australia, and we decided to move last year. And it was kind of the right timing with my company being restructured and COVID happening. So I thought, right, the plan was to go traveling for 6 months because I had that much leave saved up and cheap tickets. Unfortunately, had to kind of give that idea up due to COVID. So we, yeah, came straight here.
So you're still able to work with your organization.
No, we kind of cut ties after a while because
Mm.
they did some sort of restructure.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So what are you doing now? I mean, as far as like daily activities there, like a couple conversations we had, you were crushing grapes for wine, and I got so jealous that I had to pop a cork and have a glass of wine. And then I think the other day we spoke, and you were doing something with olives. So I might. It sounds awesome, man. But what are you doing to stay active over there?
Sure. So we just finished the harvest, grape harvest, about a week ago. Usually, around this part of the world, it starts around late July, early August, and normally they start with a wide variety of grapes, and then it normally stretches to about. It depends on how much land you have. It could stretch to about 8 weeks or so, and if the weather's kind of okay. And as soon as that's done, yeah, we kind of have an orchard as well. So we had the apples that we had to pick a few days, and now we're doing the olives. We've got about 200 trees.
Wow.
Uh, it, it's a lot of work for not much oil, but I'll tell you, the taste is second to none.
Wow.
So
So when you guys do that, do you have the equipment or the machinery that it requires to make the oil there on the property, or do
um,
you ship it out?
no, no, no. So there's a place called Frontoio. That's where they make the oil. That's how they call it here.
Okay.
Each town has a little, like a small house that's like dedicated to making wine. So you take your wine there, you kind of telephone them up and say, "Hey, I'm bringing my sorry, not wine, the olives,"
Hmm.
and they'll wait in front of you and they'll crush it overnight or something like that, and then you pick it up. It comes in batches, so they label the olives that you bring,
Hmm.
put it in a giant tub, and that's yours. So it's a bit different from the next guy over because the olives could be different. There could be a bit more olive oil inside the olive or not.
Hmm.
So yeah, and they it's really cheap. It's so cheap for someone who comes from Australia or UK. They'd be like, "What the hell? How could these people survive?" But this is how they do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is it like living in San Vito? I mean, it's an area, like you say, a little bit off the radar. Some people are
Yeah.
familiar with it, but are you in walking proximity to the beach? Can you walk or scooter to cafes? Cafes, coffee shops, pubs, restaurants? How
Yep.
accessible is all that stuff?
It's all within a 3-4K radius. The beach, I could walk to the beach from the vineyard. I could walk there in about 10 minutes time. Or we have a little beach hut house type thing. It's about 30 seconds from the beach. Everyone, there is some restaurants that's in the Michelin guide, but it's very like it's catered to local people here.
Hmm.
But there are some really nice restaurants. There's no pubs. There are no pubs here. The closest pub is about half an hour away, and it's not kind of a pub. There's no big pub bar culture here.
Yeah.
Um, Plenty of cafes and plenty of street food. That's what we're known for around here.
Okay. And like the
Plenty of street food.
cafes, they all serve like vino, right? You can get like a glass of wine pretty much anywhere.
You can pretty much. You can
Yeah.
start at early as 7 o'clock if you want.
Yeah.
Usually, aperitivo starts around 4:35, and
Hmm.
you can see everyone with a glass of wine or a spritz until about 8 o'clock at night
Yeah.
at a bar. Yeah.
And how are the beaches over there? Are they the rocky style type beaches, or are they more sandy, or?
You got both. So you got a bit of rocky bits, you got a bit of sand, you got a bit of rocky, you got a bit of sand. Um, it's pretty much free. You can go anytime you want. But during summertime, there are parts that public areas that get reserved. They call lidos. So it's pretty much a sunbed and a hut, which you have to pay money for. But usually, if you go at this time of the year, there's plenty of space. But during summer season, you could see the council will cordon some areas off.
Okay. So, you coming from Australia. So Australia is a very, very beautiful country as well. What has been the biggest adjustment for you as a person leaving Australia and moving to Italy?
The biggest for me is dealing with the government side of things or the bureaucracy. I thought it was just what do you call it? Just fantasy that people talk about, but I actually experienced that quite heavily here. And it's not just me; a lot of expats find it very difficult to get things done.
Hmm.
I reckon that would be the only thing. The rest is a bit of a lifestyle adjustment for the
Hmm.
better. For the
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Can you speak the language? Have you learned how to speak Italian?
I can speak Italian. I can understand well,
Yeah.
but speaking, I still make a lot of mistakes. It's all self-taught or just being exposed to the rest. But in Abruzzo, you don't speak Italian because every region in Italy has their own dialect. So
Hmm.
here you call it Abruzzese. Sometimes I had a friend over from Tuscany. He's Italian, obviously. He goes like, I don't know how you survive here because I only got two of every 10 words. So
Wow.
it's a bit different.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of like going from the north to the south in the US here.
Yeah, pretty much.
You got
Pretty
a
much.
really heavy southern drawl when you head down to the south, and sometimes you got to listen very closely to understand what people are saying. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So as far as like, okay, so let's look at price wise. I mean, Italy they've been in the news in the last couple years. I don't know if you've heard of like the €1 homes that were being sold. Have you heard
Mhm.
about that? That there was some
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
$1 homes that were being sold in communities that are becoming um, unpopulated. There's just no work to sustain a population in smaller communities. So they've
Yeah.
met many, I guess, rural communities throughout Italy have become abandoned. And what the government is doing is they've sold some of these houses for $1, and they've had many Europeans, some I guess some U.S. Um, individuals purchase those properties, and they've done it, I guess, for the last couple of years. But it's kind of put Italy on a map of going, especially for people here where I'm at in the US, going, Europe has never really been a destination where people thought about, um, going to invest in and live um, in retirement, because it's always been kind of like an expensive place. Unless you're, well off and you have some money, you can do that. A lot of people, they decide to go down to Mexico or regions of Mexico because you can stretch your income out, and it's close to America. Some people go to Costa Rica, Panama, but now Italy's on the map, and other parts of Europe are becoming more desirable because of the affordability aspect. So how in San Vito, I mean, what's is it affordable over there? I mean, what do flats run, and what does real estate go for over there? I mean, what can you get it for?
Um, so that's actually a really good question because I've been just talking with some of my friends back in the US and around Europe about the €1 houses. You don't get a lot of those houses around here.
Right.
They're trying to get people into these villages. Obviously, it's mainly catered for people who are investing their retirement over here rather than you coming over, because they tried the concept of smart working villages. So you just become a digital nomad, or like you come over and work remotely, but the cables for internet, they're kind of 10 years back. So around here, it's really affordable, and it depends on what kind of property that you're looking for. A lot of the people from the US, when they come over here, they still want a very original, like sort of stone house. They go more towards the mountain in Abruzzo to get it. And around here, you can easily get something for less than 150,000 US dollars. A quite functioning place, like in a really good condition. Or you can buy anything from about 30,000 euros and just pour another 20 into it and do it all up and retire. Well, I
Wow.
actually know a couple who did that. Yeah.
Well, how big is something that is 30K? So figure you throw 50, 60,000 into something like that. Is that a flat, or is it a home, or
No, it would
how
be
large is it?
it will be a a standing house with a bit of a
Okay.
garden. You don't get too many flats here unless you're closer to Pescara, which is like a university region. Towards the mountain is where a lot of the retirees or the expat kind of go, because they want to enjoy the mountain life off the grid. Around here, you still get a little bit of we're only just getting on the map. So San Vito is sort of, people are getting to know this area a little bit better in the last two or 3 years. Yeah, so it's very, very affordable if you bring your retirement over.
Yeah, so we'll have to do this in a year from now again, because once it gets discovered, the prices you're stating now are going to be doubled.
Doubled. Well, the thing is, I always say, so Umbria, which is further up, 2 states up, which is next to Tuscany, it's sort of going to be the next Tuscany, but it's been in the making for about 10 years. So people are slowly shifting that mentality over there. I think Abruzzo is still about a good 10 to 15 years away. So if you're still thinking of retiring in about 15, 20 years, I think everything will be still kind of
Yeah.
around that mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to pull the map up, because I was looking at this other area. I want to see if you know anything about it. There
Sure.
was, it's a little bit further down. Let me see here. Okay, it's over by, have you been down to, it's close to, oh, there it is. It's
Polignano.
Polignano.
Amare, see, yes,
Have you been there?
I have been there. We got married there 2 years ago.
Okay.
And
So I got a buddy that lives in Rome, and he was telling me we were planning a trip to spend the summer in Italy, just before COVID hit. That summer we were coming, and then everything shut down, and we had to kill the plans.
yeah,
But he mentioned this area. We were going to spend 2 months in Italy and just kind of bounce around and stay in places for like a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there. And he mentioned this place, which I've never been to. So you got married there.
yeah, I did.
It's the pictures that I've seen are gorgeous, because they have like homes built like in these little caves and in the
Yeah.
mountain.
Yeah, there's also a very famous restaurant. It's like a grotto. I don't know whether you've seen it on postcards. It's still there, and whatever you see on postcards or on the internet is exactly how it is, or it's even more beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are like, now when you compare where you're at in San Vito to a place like that to purchase property or rent, are we talking a difference in cost?
Yeah, 100%.
Vast
I reckon.
difference.
Yeah, it will be anything north from 35% to 40% north, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, because it's a very touristy destination for starters. And you can see a lot of the apartments in like central bit, they're all converted to Airbnbs or like B&Bs or hotel hostels type thing. And they're kind of, yeah, sort of heavily on the touristy side. So wherever there is tourists, you see a massive price hike. And it's very close to other regions in Puglia as well, like some really cool places. So it's quite central.
Mm-hmm.
And from Bari Airport, which is like one of the main airports in that region,
Yeah.
it's about a 25-minute drive south, 25 to 30-minute drive south. So it's very close to trains, planes, and everything. So it's a bit of a very like expensive area.
So okay, so like yeah, so that makes a lot of sense because I think what it does come down to when you're searching for property in places around Europe, you can still find really great deals, but you have to go to areas that most people, especially like Americans or Aussies or you know people that just don't ever know the name of the city, right? Like I don't know of Marino di San Vito. I've
Yeah.
never heard of it until you and I met.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of off the radar, but that's what makes it special because it's beautiful. It's off the coast. It offers all of the same things that you can access throughout Italy.
Yeah, and the good thing about, so a lot of people have asked me like how have you adjusted, because I used to travel a lot, and that's one thing I love to do is travel around Italy as well. My wife, it is so close to so many places you don't realize it. So like, as a crow fly, it's about 150 k's to Rome, but because of the mountains and the Apennines mountains, etc., it's a bit of a curvy bit. So it's about 2.5 hour maximum drive, 2 hours on a good day. You can catch the bus, it's the same thing. And there's an airport here called Pescara, which is 30 minutes north of where I live. And you can get €8 tickets from the UK or like somewhere in France. Obviously, the dates are very limited. You have one or two flights a sort of week. But it's quite central. So if you love Tuscany, you could drive up to Tuscany in 5 hours or less.
Mm.
If you want to go up to Milan, it's about a 6 hour drive, 7 hour drive. Or if you want to go to the south, to Puglia, yeah, I had a mate come over. I told him to get off in Rome, drive straight across to San Vito, rest, and then we went all down south to Polignano, and then we went back up north. So it's quite central.
Yeah, yeah. How far are you away from Venice?
Venice is a bit far away, so it's about an 8 hour drive.
And you could take the train up there from where you're at as well?
Yep. You can take the train. So you go from here to Pescara, you take the local train, and from there you go all the way to Bologna. And then from
Okay.
Bologna, then you'll just take the other train to Venice. So
Okay.
it's
And then
just a few stops.
and how far are you from Rome again if you drove?
Driving anything from 2 to 2.5 hours.
Okay. And Florence?
Florence, I've just been there. So about 4.5 hours on a good day.
Okay. So out of all of your experience, how many years have you been in Italy now? Not
Just over a year.
just okay. So your your experience in Italy so far in exploring Italy, what areas really speak to you? What areas have really gone, wow, I love this area?
For me, for me, it has to be Tuscany.
Tuscany.
Um, Tuscany, yes. My wife and I did a like sort of a drive with another friend, and we did like these stopovers. We just didn't know where we were going, so the day, like a few hours before we started booking places, it is a magical place. And if you
Hmm.
love wine and you're into your wine, it's quite nice. And you'll never see a ruin or an old house abandoned in Tuscany, because people pride themselves in keeping that place. the way it's meant to be. Here you can see a lot of abandoned houses around, quite a lot actually.
Yeah.
But that part, yeah, so the food, the wine, the people, they're just lovely. And if you're just learning Italian, that's one of the only places that speak the proper like Italian, like the original version. Like that's the purest Italian you can hear in Tuscany.
Wow. See, like, so on the did, are you talking like in the countryside when you go to Tuscany? That are you talking going to little towns in the countryside, or did you stay along the coast at all, or?
I did both. So if
Okay.
you go along the coast, it's a bit. So you can do this place if you're coming from the north, let's say from the Liguria side, northwest. You can come down to Cinque Terre, which is like really nice, like a big
Beautiful.
tourist attraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's Positano, all that kind of not Positano, sorry, Portofino. My apologies.
Hmm.
And then you come down, and then there's Forte dei Marmi, which is sort of where the exclusive rich people hang out. You can see all the big yachts and designer clothes stores there. But a little further south, or when you go a bit inland, Pisa is a big city,
Yeah.
and you can find a McDonald's there because they're so far apart. Like fast food, it's sort of unheard of here. But then, the heart of Tuscany is where I'm talking about. It has best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in Cinque Terre, Rio Maggiore. I spent about just under a week there, in 1995, and that was before Rick Steves. Do you know who
All
Rick?
right. Yeah, yeah.
Before Rick Steves put it on the map, and everybody
Right.
discovered it, and now everybody flocks to that place. And I hear it's just quite different from the time that I was there. The only people that trekked to Cinque Terre back in '95 were just really backpackers and travelers that were just getting off a train and getting on a trail and finding a pension or a hostel to kind of hang in for a while, But
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
absolutely stunningly beautiful. You're right. Have you had an opportunity to go check out Sicily yet?
No, that's on the cards now.
Yeah, we were
There's
we were going to end our trip in Taormina, and I hear that's
right.
gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard my friends just been there, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so when we talk about where you're at, it sounds in very affordable. So you can find stuff for 150K to purchase, and you are talking a home. Typically, our homes like 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom with a bath.
2 to 3 bedroom, and usually you have one, like two baths, but some houses will have one, but usually two.
Okay, and on a budget, you could find something for about 30K. With a 20K renovation, you're going to have a pretty nice place.
Yeah, that's correct.
And in pretty much living in San Vito, you can walk to the beaches, you can walk to places.
Yep,
It's all within like a 3 kilometer
that's correct.
proximity. Yeah.
That's correct. Just to give you an idea, because I did a bit of digging before and spoke to a friend who's been here and helping a lot of expats out. Um, the monthly income here, rent for a 2 bedroom apartment in a city center, 2 to 3 bedroom, is around about £500. 500, not pounds, sorry, euros.
Yep.
But a house, the sort of houses that I was talking about, in a small village, it's around about €250. That would be pretty much, mid to high range sort of thing.
You
Normally,
could rent a house for that.
you can rent a whole house for that, and you don't see anything beyond 300 for the type of house that I was talking about. And
So
I'm talking 2 to 3 bedroom.
2 to 3 bedroom houses in San Vito for $250, $300.
That's correct. Rent.
But if you
And
go,
it's not just San Vito. So San Vito is a small town in Abruzzo.
yeah,
So that's the average across. So most of the towns that we were talking about are like San Vito minus the beach. So the more inland you go, you'll get the mountains. It's
yeah,
about 30 minutes from where I am. So anything between the beach and the mountains is around about that.
What are utilities per month, approximately?
Utilities, right? Per month, you're looking at about electricity and gas for cooking and heating.
Gas, Wi-Fi, maybe your
All of that.
cell phone as well.
Yeah, all together, you're looking under 200.
Okay. Okay. And then
And that's
groceries
sorry.
per month for like a person or two people. Let's go with just
Now,
like a groceries for a person per month.
groceries per month, anything between 100 and 150. The reason I'm saying that is you try to stay local here. Okay, you got the big supermarkets, but for example, you buy the olive oil from, like, say, a local nonna, which, a very old elderly lady or a guy. You buy normally here. There's a lot of exchanges that go on, and they're not quite monetary either. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you have eggs, you swap. It still happens. You can swap your eggs for some olive oil, or you can, get the. Do you know how much is a 2.5 kilogram bread from the local bakery baked every morning?
How much?
90 cents to $1, like a euro. Fresh bread. I'm not kidding. And
Is
a
it
cup of it. Go on.
Udhana? It gluten free?
They do have that option too, actually. They do that.
That's my weakness, man. Is bread and cheese is a big weakness of mine.
Right. Okay. Um. So yeah, like, things are very affordable here, and usually, if you own a house, you kind of have your own garden. So you call it like a orto, which is like a vegetable patch.
Hmm.
And again, you don't go to supermarkets to buy things unless you, sort of need it. Local produce, you can get it for like next to nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Does San Vito have like a square where people can meet and kind of wander in the evening?
Yep. So San Vito is divided into three bits. San Vito Paese is where the council is, and it's just where the lookout is. You can see like a 360 view. Usually only the locals hang out. They just bring a chair out from their houses and just chill on the street. But usually in San Vito, they go down to the San Vito Marina. So Marina di San Vito, they'll just hang out next to the pier. It's
Okay.
a nice walk. Yeah,
And pick up a gelato or
that's
cannoli
correct.
and
Gelato is very um, popular. Yeah.
yeah. And you're saying the expat factor is picking up there?
Yep, I've only met a handful of expats because word gets around, hey, this guy's from Australia or this guy's from the US. There's a lot of expats living in the mountains because they wanted that off-grid type, lifestyle, off the grid. But there's a few here, retirees mainly. Yeah.
Okay. So I hear one of the biggest challenges with Italy is they're very high as far as how much you need to make to be able to live there. So to get like some kind of a visa, a live.
It's
So it's I think from what I've heard, I don't know if you know, I think I've heard that it's like people have to show that they make like 2,500 or 3,000 per month to be able to gain a visa and live. So retirees have to show that they have this income coming in, and if you don't, Italy won't let you in. I mean, you could do, I think, what you call like a 3 month tourist visa, but you'd always have to leave the country, come back every 3 months. Um,
Yep.
I don't know if you know more about that. Does that sound accurate or?
Yeah, that you're on the ball with this because I had to suffer a little bit. I think I'm still suffering. Just to give you a bit of perspective, so Italy has different types of visas that they give out, and when you're part of Italy, because you're in the European Union, you sort of have this free movement agreement that comes with it.
Hmm.
Due to like, say, from migrants, refugees to normal immigrants, or like, say, people coming to study here, or like there's different categories, but they kind of put them into one basket. So everyone has this sort of standard, but it's never followed through. So it's very different from different councils to different police stations to different regions. Here, they're not very inconsistent. So the best thing to do is, so with retirees, I think it's called an elective residency visa. So all they want to see is money coming in on a monthly basis, rather than you showing I've got $1 million in a bank.
Yeah.
I think it's very hard to prove, because they think that you can put $1 million in a bank and just show it to get a visa, and then you can kind of move over. But it is very bureaucratic, the process. Even for me, as a person who's married to an Italian, I'm meant to get like a long-term 5-year. So my residency is forever. But there's a thing called permesso di giorno, which is, it's called the permission to stay. Now, when you apply, you have to do it within 8 days of arrival into the country. But for them to issue you an appointment to get it, and the process could take anything up to 12 months. And that time, you can't sort of leave the country either.
Oh,
and
wow.
If you want to stay there for beyond 5 years, I had to show that I have a regular income coming. And the Italians are very good at having a lot of rules and regulations to confuse themselves. So they kind of push you to do things that you shouldn't be doing as well. So you have to make the right call to be cautious, which is the right thing for you to do or not. Because they say, oh, go and make a contract. It's okay. We just need to see it. But it's always not the same standard. They don't follow the same standard everywhere. So one place is different to another. So I had another guy who came with the exact same circumstances from Australia. He sort of got away with it easy, because he said that my in-laws earn this much, and they kind of got that through. But here they said that no, you're your own separate family, and the rules are sort of like wishy-washy everywhere you go. So be very cautious.
Wow.
And if you're a retiree, all they want to see is a regular income coming in. That meets the minimum standards. I think it's as long as you can show more than 8,700 euros a year per person. So for a couple, it would be just around the 20 mark. I think then you're pretty good.
Okay. So, yeah, it sounds like there's no continuity among the regions there.
No.
They just kind of make their own decisions based on what region you're in. Do you think it's more political, or does it have something to do with maybe some regions or some pockets are more conservative than others? What do you think it is?
It's all of what you just mentioned plus more.
Yeah.
Without being too morbid about this topic, it's, if you're an expert and you're coming, you've got to have a lot of patience to deal with this, because, for example, the police station where they issue like things around here, they don't like to use a computer, even though the computers are an absolute must.
Yeah.
But then if you go to a more touristy area like Tuscany or like that region or somewhere up north, they sort of act very differently. So here you can go to a government office and say, here's a piece of paper that shows this is the regulation you need to follow. There's no accountability here, so they can just turn around and walk away.
Yeah.
So you got to be ready for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it sounds to me like, when you move into an area of Italy where there's not a lot of expats, it sounds to me like you're going to run into, some challenges, right? Because it just seems like people might be able to navigate the system a little bit better if you just said, I'm going to go live in Rome, because there's so many expats that live in Rome, and so many expats that live in Florence. But I'm guessing that it would probably be an easier road, and the system is a little bit more accommodating. I don't know, but
that's true. That's true. If you're a European citizen, however, things are a little bit more easier to get about, because they sort of fall under the EU sort of framework, which they should be following, but they don't most of the time. But again, it's a bit easier than people from the US or Canada or Australia. And another big thing to think about before moving is your driver's license. So you get 12 months to drive on your international driver's permit, which is your normal US license with a sort of translation. After that, you've got to sit the exam in a manual car, and you have to do it all in Italian. Now,
Wow.
that exam is hard for Italians themselves,
Sure.
and they don't have any translation. So if you go to France, Germany, all those countries, they issue you like a translated version. And also, when you do it, if you get through this, then you are a new driver, which means you have restrictions. So you can only drive a car that's like really small. You can't drive after dark. You can't go on the autostrada for about 2 to 3 years. So you've got to be mindful of that too.
Yeah.
Some families who moved from Australia were struggling because they have these massive cars that they used to transport their kids and stuff. And then suddenly, like one of them have to get a Fiat Cinquecento. Beautiful car, not the most practical when you're having a family. So that's something you need to worry about.
Yeah. So you're working on getting your license, or did you get it?
I didn't get it because it just expired. But I live in a farm, so I'm sort of okay. But I might be moving to a different destination soon, which allows you to convert an Australian license. So once I get
Okay.
that, I might, I could come back here as a European, like what do you call it, with that license.
Gotcha.
However, there are some countries that they have a agreement with, but the key is to have the license issued before you take up residency here,
Okay.
because you can't go back and get it. So they offer a Sri Lankans the license.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, I couldn't stop over to get my license and come over here. So because I came here directly, I can't go back and get it. So all those little nuances will kind of drive you off the wall.
Yeah.
And you just open the window and look outside and be like, okay, it's a compromise.
Yeah. 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 I think it's in a couple years, once you work through all of the, I guess I don't know what you'd call it, but kind of chaos is you're working your way through to kind of find your way to be fully acclimated into Italy. It just seems complicated starting out,
It
but
is.
once you get it all settled, I think that now you can breathe and now you can relax and it's all in
That's
place.
right. That's right. But yeah, a lot of people would struggle, but at the same time, you've got a really good bunch of expats. I follow a few groups on Facebook, as well as there are some other forums. They kind of help you out. Even for the license, like people who've gone through the process before will give you, here's an Excel spreadsheet with all the words you need to learn type thing. So again, it's a challenge, but it's sort of a good challenge in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you do about healthcare, and how is healthcare? Is it affordable in Italy?
Healthcare is very affordable. Again, it will depend on the hospital and where you are. So, as a resident, a tax-paying resident, or a family member, like say, for example, a spouse, you're entitled for whatever the Italians are entitled for the rest of Italy. So it's like I don't know whether you guys got the same thing. We have a thing called Medicare card, which is like you just go to the hospital, you pay hardly anything, you just pay a small gap. But again, the waiting lists are quite long.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there are private health insurance. You can kind of skip all those things, which is sort of affordable for the basics for an expat. But again, there are specialist expat medical insurances. So a lot of them do have that, but usually healthcare is actually pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. And is it like a national healthcare where
It is.
anybody
It
can?
actually,
Okay.
yeah, but it kind of goes beyond Italy as well because they're part of the European Union. Let's say you're a spouse of an Italian citizen and you're entitled for that. Let's say you go and something happens to you in France or Germany, it's still covered under that banner, like that framework. So
Oh,
you
okay.
don't fork out additional funding. So they should
Yeah.
be looking after you. Yeah.
That sounds great. And in the healthcare, is it pretty decent? I haven't even looked at the rankings.
It's very different from regions to region. Um, we are expecting our first baby, and my wife decided to go through the public system, and it was terrible before last year, but apparently this year it is just in tip-top shape, and there are new doctors, there are young motivated people doing it, and we have no complaints so far.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it really depends.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, thank you.
Do you know if it's a boy or girl yet, or
It's a girl, it's a
a
girl.
girl? Wow,
Yeah,
very nice. And when is
yeah.
she due? When is she due?
Anytime between end of December and sort of the second week of January. Here, they don't give you an exact date, so they just tell you randomly,
Yeah, yeah.
approximately when it is. Yeah,
Wow. Are you excited or?
yeah. I'm getting very excited.
Yeah.
She's going to have 3 passports as soon as she's born, which is really lucky.
That's exactly, man. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the big game changer, buddy.
yeah. I've been told.
It's the
Yeah,
big game changer. All that sailing and flying you do, getting in an airplane and going to fly over the ocean and all that's going to come to an end. No.
yeah. But my wife's pushing me not to change my lifestyle completely. But I think it comes down to affordability because I've been not working for a year. But I think well, like the two of us still want to hang on to our adventurous side and get our little baby into that kind of stuff as well.
That's
Like
right.
it's a lot of
That's it. You take the kid with
yeah,
you.
yeah. And I have a friend who did exactly the same, and yeah, the kid's pretty awesome. He's into everything.
Yeah. Let's before let's break down the numbers here. So
Yeah.
if it sounds to me like in San Vito region on that east coast of Italy, there's places that you can pretty much live very frugally. So I'm looking at, and let's just look at rents. I mean, if you can get rent a house for 250, 300 a month. Let's even go high, 300, then we're looking at um, the utilities. I think you said were um,
Anything from 200,
200
yeah,
with
around about 200. Yeah,
okay, and then groceries were about 100 to 150.
50. Yeah.
So you're really looking at, and then what do you think for like entertainment when you go out for dinners and you do things and you buy ice cream and you go to the bakery and you get,
Yeah.
what do you spend per month on like that kind of entertainment if you want to go see a show or an opera or a ballet? Are those things going on in San Vito? That kind of
There's no opera or ballets, but once in a while there'll be like some sort of jazz musician coming, or like there'll be some sort of event where you book beforehand. But it's very affordable. Like we went to a jazz concert, kind of popular Italian artist, two Italian artists in a nice arena. It's about $30 per person.
hmm
And that went for about 6 hours. I think that's quite affordable and that's quite reasonable.
yeah. So
I've got the breakdown here actually. To answer your question about the meals, mid-range restaurant with about 3 courses for 2 people, you're looking at anything from 40 to 60. That's
okay,
including your wine.
okay, all right. And how often do you guys get out? Like once a week, a couple times a week, or
During summer, maybe a couple times a week. During winter,
okay,
maybe once a week or so. Yeah.
okay. So overall, in a month, would you say entertainment would be about 150, 200, or
It depends on like whether you have guests over and stuff like that, but or you're going to concerts. I reckon 1 to 150 to
okay?
100. Yeah.
So we'll go 150 as the high mark here. Um, that's groceries. So 3, 5. So, I mean, it looks like, I mean, from what, if you break it down, I mean, there are parts of Italy that you can live comfortably for 800, 900 a month.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. So one of my friends wrote an article about this. It says a couple can live a la dolce vita in Abruzzo for about 1,200 euros a month.
Yeah.
That's including having a car as well. So what we didn't account for before was having a car
Yeah.
and maybe renting a garage space if you're living in the city type thing. So anything from 1,000 to 1,200 is what you're looking for.
Wow. That's why I think a lot of people are starting to kind of explore Europe. I mean, the same thing is happening in Portugal. It's happening in Spain, parts of France, Italy, Greece. Is really incredibly affordable too. I mean, there's some nice apartments, from what I've learned, you can get for 100, 150 bucks a month. It's and it's, to me, I mean, it's such a beautiful part of the world. It's like one of the most magnificent, in my opinion. There's the Mediterranean region is the most beautiful part of the world that I've been to. Like, so I've never been to like Indonesia or Malaysia yet, or in those areas where I hear quite beautiful, like Bali. And I've never been to areas like the Tahitian islands, Tahiti, and that where I hear it's just stunningly beautiful. But my experience in the Mediterranean is I was just every direction, like you say, you walk out and you look around, and it's like every direction is a postcard. It's so pretty, and
It is.
to be able to live there, affordably is very eye opening for a lot
Yeah.
of people.
The as you said, the Mediterranean is probably the sweet spot because it's you're not just, if you go to like Tahiti or like one of those islands, you're kind of isolated, right? It's like quite isolated. But here you're kind of in the middle. You got Greece on one side, you got Italy, Spain, and you can roam around quite easily, and getting about is quite accessible. And you can, like, today, if you feel like, you can drive up 9 hours and be in another country. That's one good thing about Europe and like the central part. Then in Australia, like you got to drive 10 hours to be to get to the next state. And to do whole of Australia, it takes about 3 weeks. So doing it in 8 hours, you're in like another country, and then further north you go, like you cross 3 countries in 12 hours. So it's quite central, and I think the lifestyle is pretty laid back. The only note that I would like to make here is that if you're young and career-wise, unless your kind of profession is one of the like most like right at the top, it's very hard to find work for a working professional young couple. That's one note that I like to make. And then it gets even harder because they kind of tend to stay local and get local people who speak the language. You don't even get jobs advertised here. You rarely see them advertised. And you rarely hear people calling up for an interview. So it's really catered for somebody who kind of want to see change and or retired.
Well, that sounds like it's going to keep that area safe from, an influx of people, because one of the things that I know a lot of expats look for is they look for an expat community that they can connect with, right? So they don't feel isolated, because most expats, they move to a location and they really can't speak the language fluently. So they have to learn it over time, and that takes work, and it takes practice, and it takes study. And if there aren't other expats that you can bond with, you can easily feel isolated in some of those communities, which will keep people away.
Yeah, that's true. Here, I was like I was looking for lemongrass to make one of my curries that my parents used to make back in Sri Lanka. I kid you not, it took me 3 months to find lemongrass, and the only one that they could find where they had to post it from Bologna or some other state.
Yeah.
Uh, it is kind of a good thing as well, because you still feel like you're in a different place. In Australia, you walk down the road, there's a Thai restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But sometimes staying here, you feel like, right, I'm in a different part of the world. It kind of reminds you, there's no pubs. That's something that I used to love doing every Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like you'll definitely feel like you're living somewhere else when you come over in a good way.
That sounds like a good opportunity, though, too. As you're there, and maybe that is an opportunity to open up a pub, because you know what I'm saying. It's just like, because
Yeah,
as more people discover certain areas, then usually there oftentimes expats will say, hey, we need one of these, and then they do it, and they
yeah,
open it up, and it makes it that much more interesting. Then the next person moves in and they open up another one, and then there's another place that it just kind of blossoms like that.
yeah. What I've seen, another different aspect is a lot of young Italians. They do go. They fly to the US. They spend they do a gap year or working holiday thing in Australia, somewhere else. So they're kind of open to these ideas. So there are lots of new bars popping up and cocktails. Before you go there, you have 3 drinks: white wine, red wine, or a spritz.
Mm-hmm.
And there are still that my in-laws generation or the one before, they're still very conservative. You see something a bit different, they get a bit of a shock. But I think now they've hit the perfect balance, because a lot of the young people, they go explore the world, they come back, they want to introduce that to this culture.
Yeah.
So you can go down to the bar and have a really fancy cocktail with imported ingredients, but then have lunch at this little trattoria, and it's this lady still making like the pasta in front of you, that kind of stuff. They don't even have menus. Like, there's a restaurant here run by an old lady, and she hasn't changed the recipe. She has 5 things on the menu, and she doesn't have a menu, so she tells you what she's going to cook you.
Yeah.
So you kind of get both worlds now. I think that culture shift and open to new ideas by the younger generation, it's kind of making room for new opportunities. Like, they'll go to a pub or they'll go to this fancy winery and do something like that. Yeah.
Do a lot of people go to that woman's restaurant, the older lady that you talk of? Is she pretty popular there?
She's very popular, and all my friends, I'll take them there, and there hasn't been any complaints. Like, they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. You can taste it in the food and the atmosphere as well.
Yeah, because those places just don't exist any longer. I mean, especially in America, they don't exist here. So when you find, people like that are, this is what I make. This is a set menu. You can't order. This is it. This is what I'm specializing in today. Like it or leave it. This is it, but it's the food is usually so good when you find those places.
And it's, you can't replicate this kind of stuff. And it's just the atmosphere. The lady walks in with an apron. I remember my friend goes, I want this, because I told him I had this before. Just tell her that you want this. She came to him and said, look, I don't have this today, but you'll be having this. No, not that. Do you want this? You'll be having this.
Right.
And he goes like, what is it? You'll see what it is. So the guy didn't even know what he was eating.
That's so funny, man. It is, man. It's just like, and she's successful and cranky, and she's like, nobody's going to tell me how to do it. I bet.
I wish my generation, like their grandkids, would sort of keep the tradition going, but it's a bit of a dying art around here. There's this lady who makes this really awesome, I call them Abruzzo cupcakes, which has like a wine, like grape paste in the middle.
Yeah.
And the pastry. She doesn't have a website. She only has an old telephone. She has this kitchen. She's working 24 hours to make it. The recipe is in her head, and her children doesn't want to take initiative. So there's so many people flocking to get this. We'll get this new business going. She said, no, it dies with me, because unless my bloodline continues this, you're not going to have it. So you got a bit of that going too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. That's like a bummer. You're right. People can't even offer her money to buy the idea, the
No.
recipe. It's going to die with her. That's amazing. So, tell me, what do you like the most about this transition that you make? I mean, you made it's a, from move. How many years were you in Australia, and then, yeah, how many years did you live there?
Just over 15 years.
15 years. Okay, so that's a lot of years in Australia. And then how has the transition been? And what have you liked the most about living in Italy?
Yeah. Initially, it was a bit hard because it was COVID and it was a really bad state. The country was in a really bad state. So coming into the middle of that was a bit of a shock. Then I had a bit of a culture shock, how things, because my adult life, I've been working very efficiently, especially in aviation. You had to be exactly like precise. If you say it's 8 o'clock or 100 grams of something, here's just whatever you feel like, whenever you think. So that has been a little bit of a adjustment, but on like so many positives. There's a lot of things that I had to deal with, my visas and stuff like that, unnecessarily. But for me, it's the slow paced life. Like sometimes you wonder, like, I'd rather earn a little bit less money and live in this part of the world than sort of just working. That's something that's the biggest thing for me. And everywhere's nature, and I'm fortunate enough to live in the middle of a vineyard and just do my thing. And but yeah, it's a big change, and it's for the better. Like we're way less stressed. Um, we're eating good food.
Yeah.
Everything is like, seriously, we're like, the wine. We know who made it. There's no medicine. It's all natural. Olive oil comes from my garden. Eggs are being exchanged from the lady next door. So we kind of know where things are coming from, and we eat to the seasons as well. Like that's a big thing around here. So you don't get things all season in little shops. You just go to, like, this is asparagus season. You go and get that. And then you'll get the walnuts type thing. Then when it's like winter, you'll start growing beans. Like people eat to the seasons, and it's actually, they have a lot of good health benefits that we don't like realize, because everything's accessible in the
Hmm.
supermarket back in Australia.
Sure.
But here, people do eat and they live longer and they live very happily.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't ask you, what is the climate like there year round?
So they follow the four seasons. We're in autumn now. The average temperature around now is about 10 to 12 degrees.
Hmm.
It will have a snow dump in a few weeks' time. It's a bit early this year. Then it just goes to about 0 to 5 degrees.
Hmm.
And then during summer, it's scorching hot. Sometimes you got like 40-degree days. So it's a bit continental, bit Mediterranean. Like, so you get everything around here.
So you do get some snow over there.
Yeah, we do. The mountains, if this was during the day, I would have turned the camera and showed you. From my window, I could see the top of the mountains all covered in snow.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. As
Okay.
a, yeah, and skiing, a really good spot.
Hmm.
And it's free. Most of the ski lifts are free. They
Really?
just operate. Yeah.
How far,
There's
how far is that from you?
30 minutes.
Wow.
There was one that was free last year, but normally you pay like $10 a day. And you just use the ski lift. They're just non-stop. They keep going.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. Well, it sounds like I mean, you have access to so many great places, and you're like couple hours away from Rome. You're right on the near the beach, and the mountains. The, is the hiking quite nice there?
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, obviously, you need to know what you're doing, but there's a lot of truffles in around here, black truffles, which is not the most expensive truffle, but they're still truffles and they taste delicious. They're about 25 minutes up the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then further up you go, you can visit these little towns. And if you go on a Sunday, you just walk around the town and just stroll into a tiny trattoria run by a nonna or something like that. So
Mm-hmm. Nice.
just break your hike that way. There's some nice lakes up in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people do the coastal one, the route now. There's a place called Wasto, and they go up to about 25 k's up the road, and it's just a coastal bike ride. So they give you a picnic basket, and then you put it on your bike, and you just have a picnic on the beach, like, stop wherever you feel like, and then do that. So you got a bit of activities around here.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And the next you have to do is you got to get one of those backpacks where you can carry your child. So when you go on those long hikes, or you get those little backpacks. That's what I had when I had my son. He's 11 now, but same thing. And then you can get one of those carriers that you put on the back of your bike too. Because I used to carry him around on my bike all the time as well.
Nice.
But,
do you travel with him?
We have not. Our big trip was going to be Italy last year. Before COVID hit, we planned, and then so I used to live in New York, and I'm originally from the Detroit area in Michigan. So I go back and visit family there and family and friends in New York City. And he's gone, so he loves going to New York because it's exciting, so we just actually went to a Yankee game not that long ago.
Very cool.
And he was in awe because it's the first time he's ever experienced a big professional game in a huge stadium with all these screaming lunatic fans, so it was a great experience. But we haven't done anything with him overseas yet, and I think we're still going to wait because it's with all this COVID mess still, it's a lot of unknowns. It's just tough, right now. So we're going to wait till things settle down and then figure it out from there. But is there anything else that's all I have, Udhana? Is there anything else that you can think of that we missed or that you'd like to share about your experience or your town or Italy at all?
Italy is a very beautiful place, and it has a lot of things to offer. And if for holidaying, it is the perfect spot to land, and especially during summer. And but if you're coming here to live long term or short term, you've got to have a lot of patience and don't take things personally. So people here, if they can't relate to you, or speak in English or do something like that, they kind of walk away. So they're not being rude. It's just they don't want to get involved. But then there are some absolutely hospitable people that will go out of their way to help you out. So don't take things personally if, 10 people snub you, but there'll be like another 20 people that will be willing to help. So have a lot of patience. And I'm sorry to say, but this is the best time to travel Italy because there's hardly any tourists around. We went to Rome. We saw all the attractions in a matter of a few hours, and we're like, well, now what do we do? Because it is near empty, which is sort of a good thing, but it's a sad side as well because it's not, the economy still needs a lot of, what do you call it, jump starting.
Yeah.
But it is a beautiful place. If you're coming to live here, make sure you do your research, get onto those expat groups before you move here, and speak to your, the embassies, and get as much information before you come.
Yeah.
Expect a lot of change. Sometimes you'll be on the plane and this is the regulation. By the time it lands in Rome, it would have changed. So be ready for that too.
Well, thank you very much. Udhana Abeysekera, thank you so much for being on this and sharing your experience, your journey, all your wisdom, and congratulations on your baby that's coming. You're just a terrific interviewer, and I really appreciate all that insight that you provided. It's just valuable and incredibly helpful. So thank you, man. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to it, and yeah, you're doing a really, really cool job. Like, you're taking time to interview all these people and give a lot of insight. So, and this is firsthand, and what you're doing is pretty awesome. Keep doing it.
Yeah,
And
thank you. Yeah, I've been and that's the joy of it. I meet people like you, and it's and I'm in awe of all the things that you've done. I mean, it's like I've never flown a plane. I've always wanted to fly a plane, but sailing boats. But like you said, you've lived in Sri Lanka, then Australia. I'm meeting people that have lived all over, and like you said, your daughter's going to be born, and she's going to have 3 passports. And that's just awesome, man. I just love that, because you have access to the world, and there's nothing better than to live in different places, to learn about yourself, to grow as a human being, and to be just the best person you can be, to expose yourself to the differences in each other, because that really helps you understand. And you're right. I've heard a lot of people talk about how certain areas can be off-putting with people, and it's so important to understand, never take any of that personally. Such a great point to make. It's just not personal. It's really more about them. It's cultural differences. Sometimes people don't want to get involved, and you're right. Very true. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. And
no, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you do have any other things that you need, guidance or help, or people have questions, please send me a message, and I'll be happy to help.
Will do. Well, you have a great rest of your evening, and thanks again, bud.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.